Okay, welcome everybody. This is Bill Goff, president of BGI Systems in the big town of Florence, Alabama. And I'm happy to be here today along with fellow Alabamian Nick Saban. Oh, excuse me, Michael McLean, portraying Nick Saban today. But hey, that's another story. I'm, you know, I'm going to get to why me and Michael are doing this here shortly. But I've known this young man since 2004. And I remember the first time I met him, he was in his early 30s. I was in my early 40s. We was at this marketing conference for independent insurance agents. I infiltrated it as an Allstate insurance agent. They're invited by another Allstate guy, invited me in there, telling me, now, Bill, about 90% of the stuff that I'm going to do is my best voice of them I can. Michael loves this guy, by the way. He only wrote more auto, more home, more commercial insurance than any Allstate agent in the state of California. That's how great this man was. But anyway, he said, now, Bill, 90% of the stuff you're going to learn when you go to this seminar, you're not going to be able to apply it. But believe me, that 10%, you're going to be able to take it and run with it. And Michael knows who I'm talking about. He's also the guy that got me doing my first newsletter dating all the way back to 2006. Here we go, man. I'm already down a rabbit trail. Let me digress. Let me get back into why we're really here today. A few months ago, I asked Michael, as I was going through his coaching program, an 8-week torture that he put us through for Navy SEALs, baby. Let me tell you, I've never written so much in my freaking life. But anyway, glad I did it because I really, and you'll hear in a little bit why I needed it. But we were going through this thing, and I said, hey man, you ought to let me interview you if you like. I'll open it up to my audience, which most of them, 90% of my audience is insurance agency owners. Of course, the other 10% is business owners, and this is what he teaches applicable for everything. It's all about entrepreneurship, small business, by the way. By the way, that dinging, I'm sorry. If I was in an office with an assistant, we could get rid of that. Because we're at home and I'm techno-tarded, I cannot get rid of it. So just you're going to have to put up with that today. I'll try to keep it off track. So anyway, we tried to get a time together, and we put some cool date. We put a couple of dates together, couldn't make it. But anyway, we decided to do this right now today. So I'm happy to do it. It's my understanding, and it's also cool that Michael's got some of his people have been invited to this as well. So for those of you who don't know me, I think Michael's, he's introduced you a little bit about what I do. We've both had some real good success in the insurance agency space, and also some other things that we've done, also coaching, consulting, real estate. I've done pretty well in. Michael's done well in it as well. But we're here today to talk about what got him back. Back last Thanksgiving when he started sharing these things. And that's what we're going to start with. But before I get into interviewing him, Michael asked me to share I've had a transformation in my life since last April. So in April of 2001, I had one of my I lost another dear friend in December of 2020, but lost a dear friend of mine in 2021, esophageal cancer. He's only 59 years old. I was 61. I was 60 at the time. And I was a pallbearer at his funeral. And so I needed to wear a suit. Well, I hadn't worn a suit in years. And so getting dressed for this thing, I got to put a pair of socks on, and I'm so big and fat, I can't even bend over to put my socks on because I'd allowed myself to a life of just being sedentary and just get addicted to carbs. And, I was like 100 pounds overweight. So it was horrible. I'm embarrassed to say it, but hey, that's the reality of it. So, I was taught a long time ago that all progress starts with the truth. And so the truth of the matter is I'm a fat ass. I'm heading toward diabetes. I'm heading toward the graveyard really early at 61 years of age. So after that funeral and the previous one 4 months before, Vanessa and I happened to be having dinner one night with this couple that we hadn't seen in maybe 6 months. And they walked in the room, and he had lost 60. They looked fantastic. Matter of fact, they lit the room up when they walked in. And we were at our country club. We were set just us four at the table for this banquet. And those guys we spent an hour and a half with them. Probably 90% of our conversation is how they lost this weight. And they did it under doctor control, medication, and a very strict keto diet. And I said, what about the exercise? No exercise. Okay, well, anyway, so I get in to see the doc, does the same thing for me, put on this strong keto diet. And in the first 90 days, I lost 55 pounds. Fantastic. Zero exercise. Me and Michael joked about that, in the past. But so, all right. So I'm reading this. About that time, one of my former mastermind members shows up in October. In October, I literally looked this up yesterday because as I was preparing to tell this story, I needed to have some hard-based facts. So in October of 2021, Paul Fanoff of Tampa, Florida, retired Allstate agent, millionaire, one of the top, became a premier agent in his own right the last 10 years or so that he was an agent, and was happy to work with Paul all that time. I told him about my weight loss, and he was on a health mission as well. And he introduced me to a book. It's called Younger Next Year. And this is the name, but this is it here, but this is actually the journal. But Younger Next Year is written by Chris Crowley and Dr. Henry Lodge. So don't go there right now, but make a note of it. By the way, we didn't tell you to get your pen and paper ready. I know Michael did in the email invitations, but you're going to want to take a lot of notes today. So that book, it's a yellow in color, and it motivated me to get going. It talks about what happens to men when they start getting 60 years old and older, and what our bodies do. They turn to mush. Okay. So Paul showed up, and next month, yours relentless here, Michael McLean shows up in my inbox on Thanksgiving Day or right around there with his video, his first video that he shot and he was talking about his new book. And that new book is the title of our thing today, how not to get your ass kicked in business and in life, and his 25 rules for, building a badass millionaire livelihood. So immediately I bought the book. Immediately I took the audio book upsell because I wanted to get both. I drive a lot. I love listening to books instead of that news crap or whatever on the radio. So, I started with that. That was Thanksgiving of 2021. And Michael, as we know, if you guys have been following him for any length of time, he has shot 261 videos since that day, or 262, whatever the number is. But Mark Andre, who's hosting this call, has been there for every one of those. And I haven't missed one. Now, I haven't watched today's yet because, I've been doing my morning thing that I do in the morning, doing the morning magic, dealing with the afternoon chaos. And this is the afternoon, but this is fun. This is not really chaos. This is actually fun, what we're doing today. So I was really concerned about me losing all this weight and what in the world am I going to do about it? How am I going to keep it off? Because it's not like this is the first time I've ever lost any weight. And so got to thinking about it, reading the book. Another book that I came across, and this one right here is very important. This is another one you want to get, is Life Force by Tony Robbins. Now, Tony only writes about 2 or 3 chapters in it. No matter what you think of that man can change people's lives. He's been changing people's lives for decades. So, but it's a book that you want to get because Tony's all about longevity, healthy. It's always been about healthy living and everything. But all the chapters are written by doctors, and it was very important for me to get that book as well. So those are 2 real good books that I've just given you in the first 10 minutes of this thing. So you may, if health is a concern to you, and it should be, because I know Michael's market, he's targeting men 45 years old and older that are, probably successful in most areas of their life, but they have 1 or 2 kinks. Health happens to be a lot of them a lot of times. So anyway, those are very important dates right there. Now, also last March, Michael launched his world building 8-week program which was life-changing for me. And this was actually the first time that Michael and I had ever spoken, because you had to qualify to get in this 8-week training program. He just wasn't going to let anybody in just because you could write a check for, I don't know, 15, 20 grand, whatever it was. It doesn't matter, because I already got that money. I remember the first time, one of the first things Michael said to me when he interviewed me for the call, he said, "What are you doing, man?" And I told him about I've been sitting on my butt for 4 or 5 years, hadn't been doing anything, playing a lot of cards. My BGI business was pretty much gone because of several things, not to get into here. Everything has a start and everything has an end, but we're still alive because we got some customers that we just will not leave us because of our done for you services. And that's great. So that's fine. We're happy to oblige that. But I told Michael, I said, my big reason is that my health, and Michael's known me back to, like I said earlier, 2004. And he knows I've always been a big dude, and just overate, overdrank, overplayed, overworked. And so anyway, I told him my big reason that I wanted to get in is I've lost this weight, but it's been a while. It's been almost a year since this weight had come off. And about that time it was about 75 total pounds, but I wanted to, I needed some hard coaching. And not only that, I was getting ready to buy into a multi-million-dollar business. I just sold my apartments in December. And so I was getting ready to get back into business, and I had some rust on me. And so he said, "No problem." He said, "By the way, you'll get your money back in the first month." I said, "Are you kidding? I've already gotten my money back." I said, "Just from watching your videos and concentrating on doing what I did." And I'll never forget it. I don't know if he'll remember. He said, "Well, hell, just add another zero to the check." I said, "Well, I could, and I'd still come out ahead. So whether it's 15 grand or 150 grand, it didn't matter." But, thank God he didn't hold me to adding the extra zero. But anyway, that's where it was. And so I really started concentrating on everything. And as a result of that, now I've not only added exercise, but strength training, and a lot of other things, stacking good habits on top of good habits and good habits. Because of that, I lost another 20 pounds. So it's a total of 95 pounds that I've lost, in the last, I don't know, what is it, about 17 months now. Today is August of 22. But I want to share 3 things that I learned from that BadAss world building training. And then we're going to get into quizzing Michael on these questions that I have here. The first is that now you have to remember, there was 8 weeks of this, 2 hours, Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's a total of 16 webinars. We did 16 webinars at 2 hours. It's 32 hours. I probably logged in 100 hours at least of homework, of doing the research, of teaching us something and then going to research. And then we were here. See, he could have taught this to us over a 1-year period or a 6-month period, but he knew the best way to get it to us, the men that were doing this with him and those that are doing it today, is that you need to sprint. You need to get this thing done, because he understands that money loves speed. And the thing about doing this training so fast, it'll weed out who doesn't need to be there. He does a good job of weeding people out before they ever get there. Matter of fact, he probably turned down 2/3 of the people that applied for this, because he knew there was, by their answers and stuff, he's such a good person he's been in the trenches of managing people, coaching athletes, top athletes, dealing with high performers, low performers, and hanging around some of the best businessmen in the world. What it takes, he can sum up somebody pretty quickly. But let me get back to the 3 takeaways. And these are the biggest ones for me. But the mental versus the actual physical, or the work done in a business. The way Michael dove into that, and see, we all knew it. Every man on that call, every man doing that 8-week training, we knew this. At least I did, knew that. It's all mental, and you just go on. What Michael does is dig deep down inside and teach you why the mental. See, nobody ever taught me that. And I teach this to my coaching and consulting customers. It's in your head, it's in your head, it's in your head. But I never understood how to dig down in and teach men why it's in your head. Number 2, your big reason why. What is the big reason? What is the real reason deep down inside that you want to do something? I talk about this all the time in my coaching program, and the people that I work with, my employees, a lot of people, I've talked about it for years. You got to have a big enough reason why. Again, he dug down deep and taught us exactly what that was all about. You're not going to get that in the videos. You're not going to get that in his book. You're going to only get that if you do deep dive training with this man in that program. And we're not selling anything today. Well, go get the book. You don't have the book, but don't get it now. Wait till we get toward the end. But that was number 2, the deep D's and right. And also, what about the way he talks about goals and achieving goals? He doesn't call it goal setting. We all call it goal setting, but Michael calls it goal getting. Go get your goals. Never heard that expression before. Not only that, another deep dive into what this all means. And man, it was just insane. And I want to show you something here, guys, that you may have heard this story now. So I started. This is the last thing I'm going to share, and then we'll go over to Michael. Let me figure out how to say this best. So if you know Michael, if you're in his list, you know that he talks about, when he shoots these videos, most of the time he's walking, doing his 4 to 5 mile walk every morning, 70 minutes, 15K steps. We hear that all the time because that's where he is. We see him out on the road doing the walking. So I started trying to walk in January with Michael because what I was seeing with Michael, what I was getting out of the books by Tony and Crowley and Lodge. And I tried to start walking in late December, early January, and trying to string some days together. Michael's thing is to shoot a video 365 days, in a row. I think he's on like 260 or 270 right now. I watched every one of them. I'm not going to miss him yet. It's a ritual. It's a habit now. But anyway, so I started walking, and I failed 2 or 3 times because I couldn't string days together. And I'd get 4 or 5 days here. I'd start walking in the morning. I'd try to plan it in my calendar for the afternoon or the evening. Something always happened. Something always came up. So, but it landed for me. It started for me on on the 10th of February. So as of today, I've got 6 months plus another 13 days. So you add that up, that's close to 195 days in a row of walking. Started the water, I started the writing, but here's what I want to share with you, what I started last month. And I don't know if this is going to be easy for you guys to see, but these are 2 new goals I started in July. And I want you to see this, because this is posted right up in front of me. I look at it every morning. And I started this because y'all remember how hot it was at the 1st of July around the country? So one day I came in for my walk, and this was on July the 7th, on the Thursday, July the 7th. And I decided, after coming in from this 4-mile walk that I did, I was burning up sweating. I just took all my clothes off and jumped into the pool, and I swam 6 laps, because he talks about swimming and stuff. So my goal is to swim every day. I wanted to add swimming after my morning walk at home. And I started this on 7/7, and my goal was to end on 8/31. And because of 9/1, we're going to Hawaii for 10 days. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there it is, Hawaii in 10 days. So also, I added another goal on 7/7 to 8/31 to write, study, create marketing for my car wash at a minimum of 2 hours. See, my minimum before was what I was doing before was about an hour. I wanted to double that because we needed it. And I didn't do a good job of getting on top of this before. So anyway, here's my results. And every day on the calendar, I put a red X on the days that I hit this. And as you can see, there's an orange mark right here highlighted, circled. I didn't swim. So for July, I hit 24 out of 25 days. So far in August, after today's walk, day's number 48, and I missed a swim last week because I was out of town and had no way to get there. And anyway, it's an excuse. Pisses me off because I didn't do it. But anyway, I'm 46 for 48 days. And, if we continue, tomorrow will be the 49th day in a row. See, I've got them marked up here, and then we're going to go off to Hawaii, and hopefully I'll swim some more here. The reason I'm showing you this, guys, is that it's so important that we have something visual up in front of us so we know what we're doing. But it also has a lot to do with your environment, in surrounding yourself in a place to where Michael calls it stacking the deck, where you trip over success. And see, for me to get started walking February the 10th, I need to lay out my clothes. I need to put out my medicine. I need to put out the big glass of water that I'm going to have every morning before I get started. So anyway, I just man, that took 20 minutes. My goal was 15, buddy. So, I didn't go over too bad. But I'm here to tell you, thank you very much for getting me started. Of course, I know your reaction is, well, glad to be here for you, Bill. You did the work, blah, blah, blah. That's what I say to Paul and all those guys, Rob Cambiuses, Keith DeTurdy's, all those guys that have come under our tutelage, that have gone out and had some type of transformation in their business life, personal life, or whatever. If I can't be healthy, I can't do anything. That was the first thing I learned in recovery. If I don't get over this alcohol shit, that I put that poison in my life for all those years and caused misery to my family and stuff, if I don't get healthy first, I can't do anything business-wise or at home. So anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. So, all right, man, here we go. Question number 1. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, I better put my glasses on, right? All right, Nick, here you go. BadAss.
Bill, are you waiting for me to congratulate you?
No, shut up. You
did actually, I would never say to you, you did the work. I would just say that I saw it coming, because losers aren't winners, and winners aren't losers. So, I mean, it's a privilege to work with the guys that I do. Years ago, I used to work with everybody, and now I work with top 1%ers, and it's so much easier to work with cleaners and closers and rainmakers. So you did the work, but I picked you, and winners aren't losers, and losers aren't winners.
Very good. Very good. Thank you very much. All right. So tell these folks listening to this, what does it mean being a badass millionaire businessman? What does it really mean?
For me, it means 2 words. It means personal sovereignty. That's something that I've been on a journey for close to 19 years. I was like you and everybody else that's on this call. I got into business for all the right reasons. I wanted freedom, autonomy, control. I ended up the same way as everybody else on this call. I ended up trapped in my own business. I ended up trapped in my own prison. I ended up trapped in my own personal life. For the last 19 years since I left pro coaching, I was coaching hockey for a number of years. My dream was to coach the National Hockey League. And to make that dream happen, I had to surrender my autonomy. I had to surrender my personal sovereignty. And after I was fired 2.5 years into my first professional job, my mom and dad sat down with me at the kitchen table. I was 26 years old at the time. I was the youngest coach in minor pro hockey. I was about 3 levels from the NHL. Think about single A baseball. That's where I was. I was coaching in the league with the Hatfields and the McCoys. It was a bloodbath every night, but that was my dream. And my dad and mom sat down after my firing. I went home for a few weeks to lick my wounds. And I'll never forget my mom and dad sitting at the kitchen table and saying, we support you 200% in this quest to coach in the National Hockey League, but we have some questions for you. And you have to understand, my dad has been an entrepreneur for 70 years. He retired at age 85. Both my parents are 88, turning 89. They live independently on a 30-acre home where we were raised. My dad has been an entrepreneur since he was 15. My mother came from an entrepreneurial family. And they sat down at the kitchen table and they said, "Do you someday plan to get married?" And I said, "Of course, I do plan to get married. I came from a great family." They said, "Do you plan to have children?" And I said, "Well, of course, I want to have children. That's one of my big goals down the road." But as a 27-year-old young man, I never thought about these things ahead of my dream. So my dad and mom said, "Okay, if you're going to continue, you're going to go back to coaching again. You're I call these sliding door moments. where something happens in your life, whether it's a firing, whether it's severe adversity, whether it's whatever it is, your life can go one of two ways. It can go east, it can go west. But when you look back, I call these sliding door moments. And this was a sliding door moment because I came home ready to apply for the next job, move to the next city, chase the dream again. And after my mom and dad talked to me at the kitchen table that day and talked about marriage and talked about family and talked about, raising a family, they said, if you're going to chase this hockey dream, you're going to live in 15 different cities. You're going to be fired 15 different times. You're going to fill up a U-Haul 15 different times. Your children are going to go to 15 different schools. You're going to live in multiple countries, Canada, the United States, Europe. And basically, you're going to live a gypsy lifestyle for the opportunity to someday, nothing guaranteed, for you to coach the National Hockey League. And my dad said, compare that to our life. He said, he was in the insurance business, and he said, he says, everything we do is on our own terms. He says, everything we do is personal sovereignty. He says, I want to coach you and your brother and your sister in sports. I do it. He says, I have a 6-figure income. He says, we live in a small community. We travel all over the world. We're free. We have independence. We have control. We have all these wonderful things. He says, I just want to put that seed in the back of your mind before you go chase this dream of coaching. And he said, I remember my mom asking, she said, Michael, she says, you've always had a passion for coaching. She says, why does it have to be hockey players? She says, why can't it be entrepreneurs? Why can't it be children? Why can't it be your own son? Why can't it be your daughter? Because she said, I don't think that passion is specific. She goes, I think that you can be just as happy, just as obsessed, coaching entrepreneurs and all this kind of stuff. So at the age of 27, I said, you know what? I gave that some thought. I said, I'm going to scratch this itch of coaching two ways. And literally, Bill, I stayed home. That was the last time I ever coached pro hockey. I never entered that arena again. But what I did is I started building my world that day. And I didn't even know it at the time. I didn't know it was called world building. I didn't know what the hell it was called. All I knew is I did not like the feeling of not being in control. I was fired from my pro coaching job after 2.5 years of putting that team before my health, before the whole thing. Entrepreneurs think they work hard. In pro coaching, you work 130 hours a week, 140 hours a week. So I was fired in that particular situation because the team fell into financial problems. Well, when a team falls into financial problems, who's the first person to go? Who's the scapegoat? The scapegoat is the general manager and the head coach. So my dad said, he said, if you want any personal sovereignty, he says, you better learn to be your own boss. And he says, if you're not going to be your own boss, he says, you're going to be a corporate bootlicker the rest of your life. He said, so get used to it. He says, you can win all you want. You can do all this stuff, but you're never going to be in control of your life. So with that in my mind, I bought my own junior team. And I said, I'm going to work with 16, 17, 18, and 19 and 20-year-old student athletes. These are young men and women trying to get Division I scholarships. So that was right in my wheelhouse. I was able to return home to my small community. And then my dad made it even better. After I coached for 3 years, I was able to pay myself $30,000. I was living my dream. I turned 30 years old after running my own team for 3 years. And my dad he called a family meeting at the kitchen table. So here we are 3 years later, and we were back at the kitchen table. And my dad was 69 at the time, still working in the insurance agency. And my sister was sitting there, my brother was sitting there, and my mom at the end of the table. And my dad said, okay. He said, last call for alcohol. He said, I'm ready to retire from the insurance business. He says, I've talked to each and every one of you about taking over the company, purchasing it. My sister's a successful nurse. My younger brother runs his own law firm. And my dad says, I have a written agreement in hand to sell to a direct writer. He says, I need to know, is anybody at this table interested in continuing this family business? My dad started McLean Insurance when he dropped me off in kindergarten the first day in 1972. So he had 40 years of success under his belt. And I sat there, and I'll never forget it. It was the off season, and I thought about it for a few minutes, and I turned to my mom and dad and I said, hell yeah. I said, I'll take this on. And in the back of my mind, I was like, I can keep coaching my team, but I'm going to take everything that I've learned in sports, everything I've learned in promoting sports teams and filling arenas and stadiums, and I'm going to give this insurance thing a crack. So I said to my dad, I said, I'll give you 12 months. I said, I'll come into this agency and I said, I'll bust my ass for 12 months. If you want me to clean the floors, I'll clean the floors. You want me to answer the phones? I said, I'll do every job in that place from the back door to the front door. And after 12 months, we'll sit down man to man and I'll say, I'm either in or I'm out. And he said, fair enough. He says, I'll stick around for another year. That'll take him to age 70. And I'll never forget, after 12 months, I walked into my dad's little office and I said, that's it. I said, this is exactly for me. I said, that's enough of this employee stuff. I was an employee for a year. Bill, I was a CSR. I was a salesman. I was a receptionist. I just kept firing myself from all the jobs. And after 12 months, I walked into my dad and I said, I want to buy the agency in the building. My dad, being the businessman that he is, he says, no deals. And I said, of course not. I got a brother and a sister. He says, this is the going rate for this business. He says, this is how much the building is worth. He goes, a 10-year agreement. You pay me $30,000 every single month for 10 years. I was like, okay, I'm going to be living pretty simple for a while. He goes, good, it'll do you well. So we shook hands on it. We did the whole deal for 10 years. And then I took over the next day. And that's where we completely transitioned into the BadAss. We did everything the exact opposite of the industry. And I was able to purchase that thing in 7.5 years. We grew from 3 employees to 23. We 5X that place. And my dad never, ever did retire. He actually worked for 2 years after I sold it in 2017. So to me, BadAss Millionaire means personal sovereignty in whatever you choose to do with your life.
Man, that was interesting. I wrote down a few things that I haven't heard you tell before. I can't believe some of the stuff that I heard you just say, that sometime when we were drinking Crown Royal back in our drinking days, that I didn't hear, or that may have been the problem. Maybe you told me, I just forgot. I don't know. Anyway, all right. So yours relentlessly. Let me tell me your personal story, man, ever since you were a young pup. How did you grow up?
The biggest thing is, I believe a person's character, yours and mine and everybody on this call, I believe a person's character is formed in the first 5 years. Some people argue the first 7, some people say 4, let's say 5. I believe your character is set in the first 5 years of your life, and children learn by watching. They learn by watching. So I grew up the first 4 of my 5 years in the back of a general store. And we lived in the back, my brother and my sister, my brother wasn't born yet. And here we are in the back of a general store. I mean, kids don't know whether you have a big house or you don't have a big house. They don't care about any of that stuff. And I watched my dad every single day. This went on for 4 years. He bought this store. He would leave. He would come downstairs after he showered, and he would open up the store. It was a 5-foot commute at 7 a.m., Bill, every single morning, every day but Christmas, no days off. And my dad would sometimes come in for lunch for 5 minutes. Sometimes he'd come in for dinner for 10 minutes, but always somebody was at the gas pumps, or somebody wanted a fishing license, or somebody wanted a bag of ice. So my dad would come in at 9 p.m. every single night, and he would sit down on the couch. And we were in bed by then. So I'd see my dad go to work in the general store at 7 a.m. and we'd be in bed at the end. And my mom retired from the government so that she could raise the 2 kids. And my brother was on the way as a 3rd kid. But I watched what extreme hard work looked like. And I'm amused in 2022 when people say that they work hard. Oh, I work hard in the insurance business, or I work hard in the real estate business, or I work hard in the flooring business. And I'm like, fuck, you work hard. Like I saw my hero get up every day at 7 a.m. and work for 14 hours. And the only mental and physical break my dad ever got was on Sunday afternoons when he would close the general store at 4 o'clock. Well, you know what we did at 4 o'clock? We drove over to my grandfather's and my grandmother's, which was 20 minutes away, for dinner, because family dinner was everything in our family on Sunday. And what did my grandfather do? He ran a general store too. So he also had those 2 hours off to sit with his family. And the reason we had to leave the general store and go to my grandma's and my grandpa's all is because even if my dad closed the store at 4 o'clock on a Sunday, people will be knocking on our side home door. I need some cigarettes, Frank. I need some gas, Frank. I need some. So my dad, you know, if he had to actually leave to get any peace of mind. But the one thing I learned from that, besides the fact that my hero's going to work every day and I see what hard work looks like, my dad and mom in those 4 years of working 120 hours a week, that's what it works out to. My dad and my mom in those 4 years, I can never, ever, ever, Bill, remember them missing one single thing we did as kids. I can never remember them missing a hockey game. I can never remember a t-ball game, a football game, a concert, a show, a Christmas concert, ever. So even though my dad was putting in those Herculean hours of 110, 120 hours, he goes, I'm still a free man. He goes, I'm going to get into a business in the next few years here where I don't have to work 100 hours. I don't have to work 120 hours. But he goes, for now, he says, I have to work to survive. And he goes, but at least I'm free. So I think not only did it show me extreme hard work, but it also showed me the power of entrepreneurship. And you've worked 100 hours a week and I've worked 100 hours a week. And everybody on this call has put in those extreme hours and weekly hours, but at least you're free. At least you have personal sovereignty. And that goes back to what my grandfather used to say. He goes, you know, badass or bootlicker, one or the other. You're either free or you're not free. And even though my dad worked those extreme hours, he could still take 2 hours, 3 hours here to be with his children. So those are the two things. It showed me what a man and woman will do for their family in terms of work ethic. It showed me what 365X looks like. And it showed me that no matter what, the pathway to personal sovereignty is through entrepreneurship.
Wow, that's powerful. That is powerful. You know, you mentioned the getting into coaching the 16-year-old kids earlier. So I want to kind of run into that now. Tell me about, you know, your career as both a pro and amateur championship hockey coach. And, you know, you were a franchise owner too, where you first learned how to fill arenas and that sort of thing. What was it like working with some of those hardworking, mentally strong, and competitive athletes? What did it teach you to be as an entrepreneur, husband, father, and you know, I know you're big time on community leadership and service to the community.
Being around those athletes, it showed me the 99%, 1% difference in people. It showed me that winners aren't losers and losers aren't winners. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't quote it like that at the time. I saw again, like what extreme hard work looked. I realized my dad and mom weren't the only people that work like that. I saw guys that with, you know, less talent, but this incredible championship work ethic. I learned that in pro sport, the best players are not the most talented players. And the outliers, the Tom Brady's, the Connor McDavid's, anybody, the Tiger Woods, those guys are they're outliers because they have talent and championship work ethic. But I learned for the most part, the guys in pro sports, whether it's the NFL or the NBA or the NHL, those guys have an extreme work ethic. Again, no days off. And, you know, it taught me also that these guys, the power of routine, like, I don't care if it's Sidney Crosby or Henry Ford or Walt Disney or Elon Musk, they all have a killer morning routine. Tom Brady has a routine. Steph Curry has a routine. I mean, it was just next level. And the thing about mind expansion is that once you see something like that, it's like going to a powerful mastermind or going to a powerful seminar. Once you expand your mind and you see the truly greats, your mind can never go back to where it was before. So I returned from that and I had that mindset, and then I applied it to junior, and then I applied it to business. And I was able to stand in front of my athletes for years and years and in front of my employees And I was able to say, you have no idea how difficult winning is. You have no idea. We lost 5 years in the finals, chasing our Barclay Cup till we finally won it in the 5th year. And the first 4 years, I just kept saying to our guys, we were setting records for wins and all this stuff. And I'm like, not good enough to win, not good enough to win. You went through a lot of that in the 8-week course that I put you guys through. And you can see the difference between every other course you've taken and the difference between winning, what it takes to win. You know, you put in 40 hours with me, I expect you to put in 100 hours by yourself. So that was that mindset that I've kept to this day, where I saw what the best looked like. I now know what the best looks like. And when I got in the insurance business, it didn't take me long to realize, okay, here's one of the best guys. You're one of the best guys in Allstate. John Mason's one of the best guys here. And Mike Stromso is one of the best guys here. And then it was pretty simple to model what you guys were doing. But what I learned in pro and what I learned from being around the best is that, oh my God, it's like Michael Phelps says, they go, what do you do every day? He goes, I get up and I get in the pool. I get up and I get in the pool. He's the only swimmer alive on earth that does mental visualization 7 days a week. That guy sets world records by fingernails. And nobody has any clue the work that goes into this stuff unless, they're part of it. I used to bring my team together at center ice on Wednesday nights in our practices in the middle of February. It's freezing out. It's dark. The kids want to get home. They've been at university all day. I've been barking at them for 2 hours. And I always bring them to center ice and I say, listen to that. And it's just complete and utter silence on a Wednesday night. And I said, that's what winning sounds like. That's what winning sounds like. It's not, you're going to play here on Friday night. There's going to be 600 people, 700 people. They're chanting your name. Your mom's here. Your dad's here. Your grandparents are here. Laser, light, smoke. That's not winning. Private victories precede public victories. You either do the work here in the private, in the darkness, or you don't. And I'll tell you right now, I used to say to my players all the time, you will win your championship ring here on Wednesday nights in the dark, or you will lose your championship ring. And any great coach or CEO will tell you the same thing. It's putting in that work. I always call it hard practice makes what? And my guys would always say fun games. I'm like, right. Hard practice equals fun games. No different with my 9-year-old daughter. When she likes to win and she loses, I'm like, did you put in the work? Did you put in the work? She goes, no, I didn't put in the work. I said, was it fun losing? Was it fun losing? No, it wasn't. Well, then get back to work. That's a message we've lost in today's world. And that's one of the reasons that I wrote this book, that hard practice equals fun games and a fun life. You want a fun life, you want a fun world, you want a fun marriage, you want great kids. It all starts with private victories, putting in the work every day.
That's strong stuff, man. I wrote down the number about, when we started talking about this, going on that journey back last spring. And even before that, you talked about it in some of your videos. You talk about 0 days off, and just do a simple math. Divide 2 by 7, that's 28%. If you take off the weekend, like most everybody does, you're taking off 28% of the week. So how can we expect to be top at anything that we do unless we're putting effort in every day? And it's not like you have to put a whole lot of information in it. I mean, it's just like something that I read in your book. I was, in preparing for this thing, this interview, I went back and read some of your book and about the great Grant Cardone talking about working 100 hours a week. And I mean, you flat said, I absolutely disagree with that. Of course, we've all done it, like you just said. But anyway, the way you break it down now, man, is just powerful, powerful stuff. So thank you for that. Okay, next question I got here is, let's talk about marketing. Transitioning from filling arenas and promoting a hockey franchise to the marketing and promoting of an insurance agency. Hey, you can talk about your barbershop franchise here also too, what you did with that. And of course, now what you're doing with your world building consulting company.
Yeah, I mean, I did not adjust to the insurance agency. That's my answer. I decided I learned from the great Dan Kennedy and the great Jay Abraham years ago to always ask, what business am I really in? I was never ever in the window washing business. I was never in the insurance business. I've never been in the barbershop business, and I've certainly never been in the hockey business. It's the great story of the guy was having lunch with the president, the CEO of Rolex one day, and he said, the guy sits down, he says to the CEO of Rolex, he says, "How's the watch business?" And the guy leans forward, he says, "I have no idea." He says, "I'm in the luxury business." And I remember that story. And any business I go into, I ask myself, what business am I really in? So when I entered the hockey business, from the ownership standpoint, I said, what business am I really in? And I decided right then and there that I was in the family entertainment business. We were selling tickets to families that didn't want to spend money going to NHL games and this kind of stuff. So one of my headlines used to be, for less money than parking your car at the stadium, you can bring your whole family to the Perth Blue Wings game. I used to do 4 hot dogs, 4 drinks, 4 popcorns, the whole thing. So I knew what business I was in. And then I behaved congruently with that. Everything was about Bill family entertainment. So when I entered the insurance business after my first year with my dad, I just asked myself, what business am I in here? After learning from guys like you, I'm like, okay, how do I do this? But what business am I in? And I realized that in the insurance business, I was in the sleep better relationship business. In other words, if I can help people sleep better at night, I'll separate myself from everyone. I'm not selling car policies and home policies. I'm not Allstate or Aviva or Progressive. I'm in the sleep better business, and I had a sleep better guarantee. My TV ads talked about sleeping better, this kind of stuff. And I was in the relationship business. I mean, when I sold the company, we had an email list of 63,000 people. We were mailing 120,000 flyers a month. I was mailing 9,000 physical newsletters a month. I would give away 9,000 free pizzas every single year for Thanksgiving. I was in the relationship business. We sent a handwritten thank you card to 9,000 clients. I had a girl who did nothing but call people on their birthday, 9,000 happy birthdays on the phone, this kind of stuff. So I realized I was in the sleep better business and the relationship business. Then when I get into the barbershop business, I asked myself again, what business am I really in here? And I'm in the relationship business, and we build our lists with the texts and all that kind of stuff, the mailing. And then finally, in this business, again, I'm in the world building business, and I'm not in the marketing business. I'm not the same as every other consultant. I'm doing something that nobody else I've ever run into does, which is to build it where you build the business around your life. Any dummy can make money. My dad always said, any dummy can make money. It's how you make your money. It's how you make your money. Any guy can stand in a general store, like my dad admittedly talked about, and work 120 hours and make money. Well, it's easy to do that, because you won't have a marriage and you won't have children and you won't have any happiness or health, but it's how you make your money. So for the last 19 years, everything I ask myself every time is what business I'm in. I'm in the lifestyle business now, the world building does this fit in my world? And if it doesn't fit in my world, the answer is always no. So that's the big thing, is anybody on this call, if you're an agency owner, if you're a small business owner and you want to take it to the next level, asking yourself every single day, what business am I really in? When I answered that question in all those businesses, Bill, I stopped writing policies, I stopped doing haircuts, and I became a marketer of the business instead of a doer of the thing.
Wow, that was great. I've never heard the story about the Rolex guy, man. And that's strong. So, the thing about the world building thing, which I'm, man, talk about timing coming around. It's unbelievable. But I got to thinking, and I got to joking with some people that know both of us at one time. I said, who would ever think that I'm taking marriage and kid advice from the great Michael McLean? But man, it's just outstanding, and to watch what you did. I mean, you had it in you, because we would see all this stuff you're doing in the community for charity and all that stuff with the Rotary Club is always involved in, all that great marketing. But now you've taken it over into your personal life too, man. And it's strong to see how that you've grown as a father, as a husband, and all of that.
A big thing there, Bill, I'll just
Sure.
mention is when I coached my championship junior teams, those kids are 16 to 21. I told Mark Andre this. He played for me for 4 years, and he said, Michael, he says 70% of every video, everything that came out of your lips over those 4 years was about being a better man. He said 30% of what you taught was systems and power plays and this. He says 70% of what you taught us was how to be a better man. And I never thought of that for a while. And I was like, that's why we won. That's why we won. I don't care if it's, any of these Mike Krzyzewski or whoever, those guys, man, they're making better people. And that's what attracts great people to them.
Yeah. I started a new book on Bear Bryant last night, man. And I didn't get but to the introduction and in the first chapter. Gosh, man, it's powerful. He was ahead of his time, man, but I don't want to get down that track too much. Bryant's gone. Saban's here. He's live with us today. But you talked about, man, I found it very interesting, those stories that you were talking about around the family dinner table with mom and dad. Tell us about probably the number one lesson that each of them taught you. Take your mom first or your dad first. You choose.
Well, I'll preface that by saying I don't have heroes. My mom and my dad are my heroes, period. I never looked up to a Wayne Gretzky or a Tom Brady or, you know what I mean? Like that stuff just drives me nuts. Our goal as husbands and fathers should be hero in your own home, to set such a pace, to set such a stellar example. And we're all human, that you're a hero in your own home. So first of all, my mom and my dad are my only heroes. I don't have any other heroes. The number one thing I learned from my dad, who was orphaned as a child, as a brand new baby at our local hospital, was to never, ever, 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 ever follow the crowd. My dad was abandoned at birth by his mom and his alcoholic father. Our name McLean is an adopted name. My dad's biological name was Murray. My dad, the first 30 days of his life, he was abandoned at the hospital. No mom, no dad. We listened to all this stuff with babies and stuff now and skin on skin and all this stuff. My dad didn't have any of that. He had no chance to win. And he was fortunately adopted into a family. The parents were much older. They were dirt poor. He had 6 brothers and sisters who were teenagers. So he didn't grow up with any role models. My dad didn't have any mentors, Bill. He didn't have any coaches. He didn't have any consultants whatsoever. The only thing my dad had, and he told me this one day when we were having lunch and a beer, my dad and I always have lunch on Mondays. That's a non-negotiable meeting every day in my Monday. When I was in the insurance business, is every Monday, my dad and I would go across to the pub and we would talk literally for 3 to 4 hours, father to son. I didn't have that relationship when I was away coaching. And my dad and I would talk about life, family, politics, winning, losing, sports. And just one day we were sitting there having a sandwich. And I said to my dad, I said, you've had 13 companies, you bought, you sold, you've got a 51-year-old marriage, you're a great grandfather, the whole deal. I said, how the hell did you do it, Dad, coming out of that environment? Alcohol and live for the weekends and, all this other stuff. And he looked at me and he said, son, he goes, when you don't have any role models, look around and make sure you head the opposite way. He said, I looked at our kitchen table when he was growing up and the drunks and the beer and the cigarettes and this and all this stuff. And he looked around at people living for the weekend and, his brothers and sister borrowing money to get through the week and all this horse shit. And he said, I just looked around and decided as a young man at 15 and said, I don't know exactly what I want, but I sure as hell know I don't want that. And so that's what I learned from my dad. Never, ever, ever follow the crowd. I said to him, I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, 99% of people are dead ass wrong about everything. And I was like, well, that's probably cool. He goes, show me the exception. He says, money, dead ass wrong. I go, investments, dead ass wrong. Real estate, dead ass wrong. Marriage, dead ass wrong. Raising children, dead ass wrong. Technology, cell phones, fake book, dead ass wrong. You just go down the entire list, dead ass wrong. So my dad just said, when you don't have mentors and you don't have life coaches and all this other stuff that he never had, he said, I just looked around and did the complete opposite. As far as, did you ask me what my mom taught me?
Yeah. Let's include mom in there too.
My mom taught me people think my dad this and my dad that. My drive and my mean streak, so to speak, if that's what you want to call it, to get things done comes from my mother. It comes from my mother. My mother is the most candid person, and almost to the point of being uncomfortably candid. And my mom had a saying, Bill, that she always shared with me, and I only learned it later in life. She said, son, she said, when it comes to honesty, she said, let me give you a secret. She says, when you tell the God's honest truth, 100% of the time, no exceptions, she goes, that problem just became an issue in your past. She said, when you patronize people and you don't be completely honest, you're not completely trustworthy, you're pulling their cord, you're cutting a corner. She goes, that problem has now become a problem in your future. It's just a matter of when it comes back. So, that can be the person who's, sneaking some drinks behind their wife's back. That can be a person who's going through the Subway drive-through or cheating here or cutting the corner here, whatever. But my mom would have loved the Brene Brown saying, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. My mom always, we called her behind her back, my brother and sister and I, we called her the Iron Lady when we were growing up. And that, of course, was a tribute to Margaret Thatcher, the great badass Margaret Thatcher. My mom never called the office and said, could you come home earlier? She handled her environment, and we called her the COO. And we called my dad the CEO of the business or the family. But my mom taught me that if you tell the God's honest truth to somebody, it's the ultimate respect. And secondly, if you tell the God's honest truth in every situation, no matter how difficult it is, that now becomes a problem of the past.
As soon as you said that, I thought Brene Brown. So anyway,
Brene Brown.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. I got one more longer question, and I want to get into some rapid fire stuff after this. For those of you guys that are out there watching your clock, hey, we're only 57 minutes into this thing. So anyway, you often talk about entrepreneurs, small business owners being the heroes in the story. What exactly does that mean to you?
Well, that's a big message that I have today, because guys like you and people that are on this call, it's a absolute barrage against. Anti-business, anti-small business has never been so fruitful. And you've just come through a pandemic of 2.5 years. Well, who are the people that suffered, the greatly are the small business owners. My barber shop was closed 3 different times. I'm a proponent. I look at heroes besides mums and dads. I look at heroes as the small business owners in our countries or in the world, whatever you want to say. If Bill Gaw and the people on this call take a 6-week vacation, in other words, you say, you know what, I'm just going to go golfing. I'm going to go sit on the beach. Everything that you look around in the 2 greatest countries in the world, by the way, not even close, America and Canada, all goes away. Every hospital, every school, every Rotary Club, every Lions Club, every highway, every bridge, every T-ball donation, every hockey club, it all goes away. So the man in the arena or the woman in the arena, and that's something I always talk about, is you. And you're the person that rarely gets the pat on the back. Every day you go, you grind it out, you make payroll. There's not a person on this call who hasn't woke up at 3 a.m. thinking about making payroll, myself included. There isn't a person on this phone call who hasn't woke up at 3 a.m. to use the bathroom and couldn't get back to sleep because our minds never stop. There isn't a person on this call who doesn't go to a cookout or a barbecue or a football game and catches themselves thinking about something completely different. Completely different. We're always thinking about business. We're always on. When I coach professional hockey as an example, and it's no different for Saban and all these guys, Belichick, they, Bill, have an off season. They have an off season. It may only be 30 days at the lake house. It may be 60 days. I'm friends with Claude Julien, who won a Stanley Cup with the Boston Bruins. He lives 10 minutes from me. So when he coaches the Boston Bruins, he goes, and Montreal Canadiens and all the teams he coached, the guy goes balls to the wall for 9 months. He has 3 months off at the lake. 3 months off at the lake. Nick Saban, he takes, the month of July off at his lake house. Belichick goes to his place and all this kind of stuff. Entrepreneurs, you don't have any time off. When you were the number one agent in Allstate, you weren't going to Hawaii for 2 weeks. And if you were going working. And I mean, think of the number of times that you were at your daughter's things, but you're not really there. You're not really there. And that's the price of being number one. But it's just amazing. Like when people criticize small business, I go ape shit. I lose my mind because I grew up watching my mom and dad. I grew up in business. I know how difficult it is. And this is why I constantly talk to my daughter about what winning and losing looks like. Like my daughter, I don't care what she wants to do. She's 9 years old. She loves horses. She loves animals. You know how I talk to her? I say to her, I don't give a shit what you do, whether you want to be a veterinarian or a lawyer or an insurance agent. I don't care what she wants to do. I just keep telling Emery, do your own thing. Be your own boss. Badass, not a bootlicker. So if she wants to open up an animal shelter, it's going to be her animal shelter. She wants to be a dentist, it's going to be her dentist office. But small business owners are the driving force behind the economy. And this is one of the reasons I tell guys like yourself is you have no business watching mainstream news. You have no business. That horse shit is not made for anybody on this call. Mainstream news, bought and paid for, is for the bottom 80%. It's not for business owners. It's not for entrepreneurs. The same with anti-social media. You have no fucking business on that stuff when you're running your company. It's a place that you're criticized. It's a place that toxicity, the whole thing. That's not a place for small business people. So it's just like you're the hero in the story. Without you, there's no ball fields, there's no football fields, there's no any of this stuff. So I just like to pat guys like you and people on this, like the entrepreneur on the back, because they're the real heroes. And I never looked at LeBron James or any of these other guys and all this other stuff. Like I said, my mom and my dad were my heroes. And that's my goal in my home. I mean, I don't achieve it every day, but I want to be a hero in my own home by being a moralistic guy, a husband, a father, and I am a proud and unabashed entrepreneur. And like I said in yesterday's video, my grandfather was an unabashed, proud salesman. My dad is an unabashed, proud salesman. I am an unabashed, proud salesman. And we have to remember our grandkids and our kids are hearing none of this. They're hearing none of this. You think they're going to hear that at school? You think they're going to hear that on TV from Joe Biden? You think they're going to hear that from some person at T-ball? No. We need to talk about what real leadership looks like. Not some Division I football coach, not some guy, making $40 million to throw a football. The real leaders to me are the entrepreneurs and small business owners in our world. And those are the guys and gals that stir the drink.
Powerful stuff, buddy. Powerful stuff. My dad, you was talking about your mom and dad a while ago, and my dad was a small business owner, entrepreneur all of his life as well. And, what was unique about this was that he was 80 years old when he passed away 10 years ago. I was in day 3 or day 2. We had 2-day mastermind meetings. I was in the middle of a mastermind meeting when I got the tap on my shoulder from the wife that, hey, you need to come outside and talk with me. I knew when she had her sunglasses on, something bad had happened because my phone was off. I was there purely with my mastermind guys. There's a couple of them on the call, by the way, today. And walked outside, and she told me that my dad had passed away that day while I was at mastermind, and something that me and my dad had actually talked about because I was on the road so much. You remember when I was killing myself out there with all that stuff. So yeah, I'm with you, man. Hats off. My dad was my first and last hero. Well, my mom, of course, is my hero too, and she's going strong today at 84. But man, thank you so much for sharing that. And but you're right. This country, our country, well, you're in both countries now with your home in town in Naples. So Canada and the United States, man, this is we all know this is where it's happening, and the entrepreneurs, small business owners is what holds it together. And I'm back in that saddle once again. Hey, if there's anybody that's got a question that they'd like to ask, I don't know if we'll get to you or not, but you're welcome to type it into the Q&A. I said there's a person that may have held her hand up, and then also a gentleman just made a statement that he really appreciated that answer you gave just a minute ago. But hey, I've got some rapid fire stuff. I've never done rapid fire questions before, so this is new for me. I've seen people on TV do it. I haven't watched any of this before, but I kind of watched a little bit of it last night, got an idea. But if you would, and I don't know if you've ever been interviewed like this, so if somebody ever asked me this stuff, I don't know what I would do. But if you would, let's just kind of do some rapid fire stuff. But hey, before we do that, though, I do want to talk about your book. Kennedy once taught me a long time ago, Bill, if you're interviewing someone, you don't need to wait till the last minute to promote anything that you've got. I remember your interview with Donovan about a year ago. You had to tell him, hey, man, aren't you going to promote my book? We are over with the interview here. But I love that interview, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
But how not to get your ass kicked in business and in life? It's actually the title of this call today, if you would. The 25 rules for badass millionaire businessmen and entrepreneurs. So a no bull, hardcore, unvarnished, take no prisoners, look behind the curtain at what it really takes to live life and do business your own terms. You know what I love about this is that, you know, it's exactly as you describe it, man. It is. I mean, there's no blank pages here, baby. We start writing on the first page that you turn over what it's all about. And as you can see, if you guys can see this, I make notes in colors. I have to for me, but I've been through this thing a few times, and it's been a lot of fun going through, man. About 300 pages of this thing right here. But I think you can go, where is it, Michael? Nobull.com or
nobullbook.com. NOBULL book.com. Nobullbook.com. Proud tree killer, brother. There's only physical books in the audiobook. That's it. No go fetch.
Yeah.
No ebooks.
I got to reach back out to Leanne about that audiobook because I lost the link. Surprise. Right.
She'll fax it to you.
Yeah. That's great, man. I'm having a discovery call yesterday with this profiling company, Omnia Group. You remember Omnia Group?
I do.
You may have used those guys. And man, they got all new people down there. You know, we've been using them since 2004. And I told them, oh, it was interesting, man. They were about my daughter's age. They were about 25 years old. And they could, thank God they could see my past record of what I've done there as an agent and all this stuff. But anyway, I digress. Let's get back to rapid fire questions here. Okay, so fill in the blank. Being a badass world builder is
being a hero in your own home.
What is one piece of leadership advice you need to share with your badass brothers and sisters?
Besides never follow the crowd, golden gut. You need to have no more than 2 people in your life, preferably one that you ask qualified opinions of. So stop, analysis paralysis. Take advice from 1 or 2 trusted advisors that have already achieved what you've achieved and are still achieving what you are, and get rid of everybody else. You don't need to know what your golfing buddies think of your new idea. You don't need to know, what your fucko drinking buddies need. None of that matters. It comes down to, ask a qualified person, 1 or 2 people, your go-to person, and then pull the trigger.
Excellent. Dan Kennedy couldn't say it better. Matter of fact, I think you actually said it better than him. But anyway, I don't think he's got any spies on this call. But number 3, what's the one piece of leadership advice that is so crappy that you need to warn your badass brothers and sisters about?
Well, the biggest piece of advice is something that I'm working on with my daughter, Emery, which is this high school mentality of things have to be popular. I teach my daughter every day, if it's popular, it's wrong. And that goes back to my never follow the crowd. And that's difficult for children, but I keep pounding it into her head at night when we, after prayer, is like, I ask her, are you a follower, a leader? She's like, I'm a leader. And then I question, I say, I say, Emery, I said, it's so critical that if everybody's doing it, it's dead wrong. And that's the same for everybody on this call. Like you look at social media, look at the news, you look at gambling, you look at alcohol. I mean, if everybody's doing it and it's popular, it's dead ass wrong. So the part is I keep telling is it doesn't matter what everybody thinks. That's what I'm teaching Emery. It's what matters is what you think and what qualified people think. And I have a little thing that I do with Emery, and I mentioned it yesterday on my video, is I'm preparing her for a world of criticism, right? If you're going to be a 1%er, then you're going to have 99% of the people looking at you and so on and so forth. I think the bottom line is, mediocre people don't like high achievers, and high achievers don't like mediocre people. So I say to Emery every single night, I'm like, okay, sweetheart. I'm like, she tells me all the things that I said, who's going to change the world? And she goes, I said, who does daddy think is going to change the world? And she goes, me. And I said, who does daddy think is going to change the lives of millions of people through generosity and kindness? And she goes, me. And I go, and what are your critics going to say? And she names off 5 things, Billy. It's just boom, boom, boom. Your dad had money. Your mom had money. You were gifted this. You're rich. You're whatever, all that stuff. So she's ready for that down the road. And it's going to come, right? It's going to come. I mean, she's going to make her own way, of course, but it's going to come. So I guess immunity to criticism is something that we have to work at a young age. It's too late when they're 17 and 18 and 19. They care about their friends and they care about all this other stuff. But God Almighty, when you take any advice from somebody or somebody criticizes you or somebody's cruel or mean, stop and look at the source.
Very good. My that immunity to criticism getting too late at their teen years, you're 100% right. But I tell you what, my experience has been, this is with all our children in their 20s and 30s now, is that buddy, you get another chance around if once they get into their 20s, young adulthood, because it was the same thing that happened with me when I was a kid. You couldn't tell me anything, but then it took me, I thank God after a while in my early 20s, I got to see that my dad told me, he said, you'll never have a better friend than me. And took me a while to figure that out, but I did, and he gave me a lot of great advice. So
just one thing I would add, Bill, is from my mom about toxic bullshit advice that's crippling people, especially our children and grandchildren, is the message that winning doesn't matter. And my mom always made it a point in our home that there was winning and learning, but she wasn't a cheerleader for participation. She was along the lines like if I was upset at a loss because I didn't work hard or I didn't prepare, she made damn sure that my brother and my sister and I were sick to our stomach. In other words, she made it worse. She would pile on, and she would say, your dad took 4 hours out of his day to go watch you play tennis or play hockey, and I did this and I did that, and then that's the effort we get. And the only thing they ever demanded of us is our best effort, right? So my mom taught me that sick to your stomach feeling of winning and losing, and that winning does matter and losing can be learning. But just to fluff off losing, if that's in your kids and grandkids, boy, oh boy, it's a long life.
Man, clear as kind. Clear as kind. Next question. What badass world building lesson that is so important that God or the universe keeps putting in front of you to learn, relearn, and learn again?
I was born impatient and I'll die impatient like everybody on this call. My creator keeps putting the lesson of patience in my life. I look back at winning that Barclay Cup. It took me 6 years of the process to lift that cup. And when I stood at center ice in Ottawa and we won that cup, and all the kids were cheering and the champagne with the parents, and my mom and dad were lifting that trophy, which was my ultimate goal, my reason why. I stood over in the corner by myself for a few minutes before my wife came on the ice, and I was relieved. I wasn't happy. I wasn't satisfied. I wasn't elated. I wasn't waving a towel. I was standing there. You can appreciate this as a cleaner. I was just glad it was over.
Yeah.
And when you talk to a Tom Brady on TV, or you hear these guys talk about, they won the Super Bowl, and the guy who's not, or the girl who's not whooping it up is that cleaner who just, they went through the process, and then it's almost like, what's next, right? Tim Grover talks about that with Michael Jordan. You never saw Michael Jordan by the time the victory parade went through Chicago, he said that Jordan was already on to the next season. Same with Wade, same with all those guys. So the good Lord puts lessons of patience in front of me. I'm trying to, with Marc-Andre and Leanne here, I'm trying to enjoy the process. I'm trying to be more present and enjoy. Like if somebody sends me a testimonial, I sit there and I read it and I enjoy it. I don't just go to the next thing. On an interview like this, I enjoy being with you. It's not about selling anything or any of that stuff. It used to be, what's next? What's next? Yeah. So when my parents are 89 years old and I'm just like, patience is part of the process. I don't have it. It doesn't come naturally, but enjoying the process. That's the lesson that I need to keep learning. And I know that you and the people on this video call can relate. We have to sometimes take a deep breath, like my wife, Krista, says, before we say what's next.
Man, she's such a good partner for you. I'll tell you what, I'm watching you guys grow, and like, man, what about the day, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I bump it. There's a lady in front of me at the Westin in Toronto, and then she turned to the side and I said, Krista? And you guys were there. You had your team there. You guys were off at a rink that you'd arranged to practice that day, and we went to the Toronto game, the Blue Jays game. Man, what a joy it was to see you guys there.
I always took my hockey team. The Jays were in 2 American League finals back in the day, and I always, for 3 straight years, I took my team. I paid for the whole thing, and we got on the bus and we stayed overnight and we skated in Toronto, where the AHL team, and then I took them to we went to game 3 of the Kansas City Royal Toronto Blue Jays American League final. I had to meet a scalper in the Zamboni room at our practice facility and pay him in cash. And my players were looking and they were laughing. They said, Coach, you've just taught us more in the last 5 minutes than you'll ever coach in 4 years. But I also put them up at the Westin Hotel, and the guys were like, why are we staying at the Westin? I said, this is where the other team stays. This is where the Royals stay, or this is where the Texas Rangers stay, because I love bumping into those other players. So we had fun with the kids. And then you were like, wow, Bill Gaw is here too.
Yeah, that was cool, man. Your scalper took care of me too. God, what a salesman, man. God, that guy was strong.
Belly to belly in his Lamborghini.
He was something else. Hey, man, tell us what's on your nightstand.
On my nightstand is there's 2 things. There is my journal, my black journal. I have a separate one. I wasn't writing out my goals, Bill. I want to write them out twice a day, first thing in the morning. I only have 1 or 2 goals at a time. That's the secret. And I wasn't following my own advice by putting them in my journal, because I have a journal that I carry with me. So a few months ago, I bought a separate little journal that stays on my nightstand beside our bed. And it's only for me to take 2 minutes every night before bed, and as soon as I get up, to write my 1 or 2 goals. And I write them as if I've already achieved it. So I already blank, or I already blank. And I write those 2 things. It takes maybe 60 seconds. And then I write 3 things that I'm grateful for. And every day is different. Like I sometimes it's the little details. I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful that, you know, I got a haircut the other day. I'm grateful that I was invited onto a podcast. I'm grateful that my parents are healthy, this kind of stuff. But I just write my 1 or 2 goals. And because it's on my nightstand, I've been consistently doing it for 2 months. Instead of lugging up my other journal, I just leave it. And that goes back to willpower. I don't want to depend on willpower. It doesn't work. I want it on environment. So I just have a little black journal that I write my goal as soon as I wake up. And then as soon as I go to bed, that way your subconscious can work on that 1 or that 2 thing. And it's like you said, putting your shoes beside your bed or your shorts or whatever. And the second thing I have is a gift from my friend Jeff Dean, who lives on the lake that we live. And he gave me that fantastic book. It's about this thick, and it's called The Secrets to Success. And then There Is No Secret. I forget the name of the author, but it's a big thing. The Secret to Success. What is it? Secrets to Success. And the second part of the title is There Is No Secret. And what this author did is Bill went and got the 500 top entrepreneurs in history. And he writes about a page on each person, how much they overcame. And Krista and I read one of these to Emery every single night before we read another book, Harry Potter, whatever it is. And she loves it. I go, sweetheart, last night I said, you pick it out. So she said, the other night we read about Colonel Sanders, turned down 1,000 times in his 60s. The next night we're reading about the Wright brothers with their plane, and then we're reading about the great presidents, Ben Frank, all this. So that's what's on my nightstand, my journal, and that book that Emery and I and Chris and I read every single night.
Remember you sharing about this book on one of your videos not too long ago, but that was one of those days where I was walking and listening with no pen and paper in hand. And of course, by the time I got back to the house, I forgot about it, but it's highlighted now, baby. So I will get that. And that little journal thing now. So all right, I talked about one of the 3 things that was so powerful in your world building program that we went through, back last March. You told us where we were going to fail. You told us that you're going to, about writing the goals down. It's one thing to read them, but it's another thing to write them down. And you told us, and that this is probably where we fail. And I have to raise my hand as one of those failures, because I did it good. I did it really good for 2 solid weeks, but I'm not consistent with it. It's just like this thing I showed earlier. I'm not writing that down that I'm going to get up and swim every day. I'm using the red calendar here up on my board to do that. It's working, but anyway, you give me something to think about there. Okay.
Pen and paper and a separate journal on your nightstand, and you'll be 365X. I don't have to look for a pen. I don't have to lug I'm not going to lug a journal up the stairs. That's why I wasn't doing it. So change your environment.
It's environment, just like you said. Set up the deck, baby. Stack the deck where you trip over success. Number 6, give us a snapshot of an ordinary moment that could bring you badass joy.
The hockey arena, the rinks. I grew up in an arena. The rink is my solitude. Everybody has a place. It could be a ball field. It could be a museum. Everybody has a place that reminds them of their childhood. It reminds them of a better day, nostalgia, all that stuff. It could be a football stadium. It could be your high school. Any arena will do with me, long as it's empty. And when I would coach the Blue Wings or coach a team, I would always watch the video for hours. And then at 1 o'clock in the morning, when I was heading home by myself, I always used to take time to walk out to the bench. And there had been thousands of people or hundreds of people and go and all this other stuff. And I would walk out, Bill, before I drove home after every game. And I would just stand there by myself in complete solitude. And I would listen to the silence. And they talk about hockey gods, and there's gods in football, there's gods in baseball, the hockey gods. And you can ignore it at your own peril. But I believe that the harder you work, the more luck you get. But I would stand there, and it was just like It was my place where I wanted to be. The smell, the sound of silence, the cold air. I'm standing there in my suit and tie, and I'm just like, I'm the luckiest guy on earth. I get to come to the rink and coach these young men. My biggest problem is worrying about the power play. And now I've taken this joy to a new level where I now walk into an arena on a Sunday morning. I teach low income families. I get their kids on the ice. Hockey's very expensive. It's like football. And we help sponsor this program on Sundays. And my daughter's part of it because I'm coaching. So an ordinary moment is me walking into that rink with Emery every Sunday morning. And then when we're all ready to go on the ice and there's all these other kids that have a love of the game and they're there because, they're there because of the program. And I take a smell of the arena, the cool air in my face, and my daughter's beside me. And we just take our first stride out on the ice. And as a father who dreamt someday of coaching his own kid, it's just beyond anything that money could buy. That to me is personal sovereignty. I get up on Sunday morning, it's Christmas Day every Sunday, and I get to spend time with my daughter, and I get to be in a position where she sees me in a different role, which is hockey coach, skating coach, and it all happening in my shrine of an arena. That's pure joy to me.
Awesome. All right, it's a little off the beaten path here. Your top 5 favorite songs.
Wow. Anything AC/DC, anything Johnny Cash, Queen, Under Pressure is my favorite song of all time.
Yeah.
Even Kiss, Detroit Rock City. I listen to some classical, and Guns N' Roses, Paradise City.
GNR.
I'm anchored to those from high school and university.
Yeah.
So all that stuff right there.
So what do these 5 songs say about you?
They say I like things that I like energy and balls to the wall things. Those songs are all balls to the wall. They're all about misunderstood people. They're about guys that went the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm.
Guns N' Roses was LA Guns. AC/DC was laughed off stage. I just like stuff that has powerful energy. And when I think of those songs, Bill, I think of my team skating and warm up. I think of an NFL warm up. I think about that bass beating in your chest. And when I had my team, I put in a huge sound system in the arena so that the fans would feel that beating bass in their chest. Like I put big bass drums up in the stands, and where people went and they could escape from regular life by coming to a game. And that's what those songs do. When I turn them on in my vehicle driving home, they allow me to escape for a few minutes. And I just love bass, and I love that balls to the wall music and all that other stuff that comes with it.
Okay, what 3 things can you not...
By the way, Bill, you sent me, before we move any further, you sent me your 5 favorite songs, and you did it fast. What are they?
Okay, Def Leppard, Hysteria, Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, Leonard Skinner, Freebird, that's number 1. Number 4 was it's by Led Zeppelin, and actually I love the version done by Hart at the Kennedy Center better. That was Stairway to Heaven. And then the 5th one that I sent you yesterday was, it's another rock and roll song. Pink Floyd, Comfortably Numb.
So in one sentence, what do those 5 songs say about you?
Oh man, now you're backing me into it. So, that's a great question. I like the energy of them. I like the matter of fact, I listened to the Hart version of the Stairway to Heaven just about every day, because they took a masterpiece that was done in the 70s and turned and added horns to it. They added 2 choirs to it, and it brought Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, brought them to tears when they were playing it. And even Obama loved it. That's how long ago it was. I think that was in 2012. But it's about the energy that it brings. And then Freebird with Leonard Skinner, you know, where I live in Florence, Alabama, where sister city across the river is Muscle Shoals. And if anybody knows anything about music at all, they know that Muscle Shoals has a history with music, and people have traveled from everywhere. The Rolling Stones have recorded there, but there's a movie out there called Muscle Shoals, and that's muscle like a muscle in your arm, and shoals, Shoals, Muscle Shoals. The muscle was supposed to have been a muscle like in the river here that you take out of the river, but that's how, hey man, only in Alabama can you get muscle like the muscle in your arm, right? Okay, now this is something here that's kind of interesting that I saw that I wanted you to answer. So listen carefully. You're called to do something really, really brave, but there's real fear there, and the fear is real. What's the first thing that you do?
Real fear?
Real fear.
I say the words that my mother taught myself and my sister and my brother when we were children. Do it trembling if you must, but do it. There is no fear that cannot be overcome by breathing and physiology and body language. But my mother always said, whether it was public speaking, whether it was speaking in church, whether it was do it trembling if you must, just do it. So that's another thing I talk to my daughter Emery about is, you know, fear is everywhere. Everybody feels it. There's no exceptions to the rule. Do it trembling if you must, but just do it. So that's the little speech I would give myself.
So to make a lot, you know, that's a very serious moment. Serious answer. A lighthearted answer that I have on the subject of fear is that from day one, I've always taught my daughter. My daughter was a little scaredy cat. I mean, even little bugs and stuff. I said, baby, you got to learn how to face your fear. We've all heard that cliche. Face your fear, face your fear, face your fear. Daddy's always saying, face your fear. So one day when she was 16 years old, my car was in the garage, and she tried to drive my coverage out of there. She tried to drive my truck out of there, my big Lincoln Navigator out of there, and hit it on the side of the the garage, tore it up a little bit, not too bad, a little dent here and there. And then Vanessa ran out the front door. Bailey, what are you doing? She said, well, Daddy's always saying to face my fear. And I was pulling the car into the garage. I said, well, baby, not with my car. Anyway. I love it. Yeah, those are memories, man. All right. So what is something that people often get really wrong about you, Michael?
Oh, that one's easier. They mistake candidates being candid for being negative. So clear is kind, unclear is unkind. I have worked hard to be an accurate thinker, Napoleon Hill, see things as they really are, not as Michael McLean wants them to be, not as Bill Gaw wants them to be. I want accurate thinking. I'm not a positive thinker. I'm not a negative thinker. I'm an accurate thinker. I see my employees as they are, not as how I want them to be or how I wish they were. I see my bank account exactly as it is. I see my daughter exactly as she is. I see my marriage exactly as it is. I see my favorite football team exactly as is. Like the great Bill Parcells said, you know, if you're 1-16, you're 1-16. If you're 16-1, you're 16-1. So I've always had that professional and amateur coaching mentality that the scoreboard is always right. And we live in a world, Bill, now where we have so much PR and politically correctness that, you know, you see it in the NFL as an example, or college ball, where it's like, well, you know, our team was 8-8 but we lost 5 games by only 3 points. This is the talking heads, right? And Parcells always said that just means you're horseshit when it matters. And if you're 16-1, you're 16-1. If you're 1-16, so I'm sometimes misunderstood by non 1%ers as well. Michael's he's down on things or whatever, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I tell my kid every day, I said, you now live in the greatest time in history to be alive. You are awash in abundance and opportunity like never before. You live in the 2 greatest countries on earth. We've traveled everywhere. My wife taught school in South Africa. My wife taught 3 years in Colombia. We've been to Australia. We've lived in the United States. We lived in Canada. Don't tell me there's someplace better than here. And that's a message we need to be telling our employees, our children, and our grandchildren. We are awash in abundance. You want to start a car wash, you can do it in 30 days. You want to start a marketing funnel, you can do it in 30 minutes. We've never, ever had more opportunity and abundance than we're in right now. And 2022 is the greatest time in history to be alive. So for me, that's the big thing right there.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, I know you don't watch a lot of TV, but what was the last show that you binge watched and really loved?
Ray Donovan. I don't know if you watched Ray Donovan, but I watched the show. I watched the movie. There's nothing left to watch of Ray Donovan. But Kristen and I watched all of the Ray Donovans. It's like 40 minutes a night. Yeah. And I mean, what a character. And I love the father, right? I mean, yeah. Like, come on. And I love the Boston stuff and the drinking and all of this stuff. But he was, Ray's a man of few words.
Yes, he was.
So that's the last thing we've looked at. We always watch something different all the time. We always sit down at night and watch something for 40 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's amazing that you can do that. All right. So what about the number one movie that you really like, that you can rewatch time and time again, and why?
Oh my God, Rocky 2, because I'm such a sucker for the underdog. I always watch Rocky 2, and I watch it on YouTube, or I'll watch it before I do a webinar or something ridiculous. My wife, she just thinks I know every line of every Rocky movie, and she laughs. Like, I can do Mickey imitations, I can do Rocky. I love the story of Sylvester Stallone, selling that movie, refusing to not play in the movie, even though he was living in a laundromat. And right. Rocky 2, where he wins. And I remember watching that in a theater when I was in, I think, middle school. And as a kid, you never overcome that. You're like, he won. And instead of being like everybody else who's like, oh, I don't watch that stuff. I don't watch Chariots of Fire. I don't watch any of this stuff. I'm like, I watch that stuff all the time. So Rocky 2 is, and Shawshank would be my other one, as far as, movies that are not. I just love that movie and the guys in it. So there's a 1A and a 1B.
Yeah, I love Shawshank for sure. What's your favorite meal?
Thanksgiving dinner. Thanksgiving dinner. We should have Thanksgiving dinner in Canada and the United States once a week. And sitting down with my dad at the head of the table, me at one end at the lake, my mom, my sister, my brother, Emery, the whole thing out in the fall, and having that turkey and the mashed potatoes and my mom's famous pumpkin pie, and everybody being healthy and happy there. My favorite meal, not even close, Thanksgiving dinner.
Awesome. So we've got a few people that have clicked in a couple of questions here. Are you interested in taking one or two?
Sure, I'll stay on for a few minutes.
Okay, so again, this is the book here. What was it again? NoBullBook.com?
NoBullBook.com. And I have a paper and ink newsletter that I just started as well. If a person is interested in this monthly, go to BadAssLetter.com. That's BadAssLetter.com. I just started this, as you know.
Yep.
Go to BadAssLetter.com. That's my monthly paper and ink world building newsletter. Everything we talked about here, we cover all the topics every month. Real newsletter, not electronic. That's BadAssLetter.com. So what do you got for me, Billy?
Well, that first one was excellent, by the way. Looking forward to getting September edition too. Okay, Ryan Heron was really, I mentioned that a while ago about he was amen on that statement about entrepreneurship. Don Sturgeon has a question. Entrepreneurs tend to get dozens of new ideas daily. How do you handle unlimited opportunity and still maintain focus on just a few?
Well, I use these recipe index cards, and I write out about 15 of these, Don, a day. It could be a motivational quote. It's an aha thing from whatever I'm reading. I'm writing these in green Sharpie and red Sharpie, and they stay put away until I complete the one thing that I'm working on. So as an example, we finish things. Marc Andre, like his job is to get me to finish things. Leanne's job is to get me to finish things. And I only have 3 or 4 things that I have to do a day, 5 at the most. And I finish them to completion. And if I don't finish them, they go on next day's five item list. So there's things like walking, reading, and copywriting that are just part of the day. That's not what I'm talking about. But I just have 1, 2, 3 things that I need to finish. So if I'm building a book funnel, we don't really do much of anything else until that book funnel is done. I want to have the money coming in from that book funnel so that then when we're working on the next project we're getting paid for that. So, it's interesting. I've been doing a bunch of podcasts lately, and I bucket all them, Bill. Like I did 2 yesterday. I'll do 1 today. I'll do another one next week. So just doing one thing to completion until it brings you money. We're not running a soup kitchen here. We're not running a halfway house. Do something. Like I used to build a niche for roofers or restaurant owners in the insurance business. And I would build that entire funnel until it was bringing in money, the postcard, the video, whatever. And then I'd go on to the next niche. But I didn't have a whole bunch of things that weren't done. I always get it to the point where it's bringing me revenue. And then I go to the next thing. So, my one thing right now is shooting a video every day, That builds my list, that brings me money, that sells books, that sells newsletters, that sells masterminds. And now that I've made that a lifestyle, I worry about the other thing. I've got to write this thing every month. So just a few little things, but you need to prioritize. But when you decide to do something, finish it. Take it over the goal line till it's bringing you revenue, and then on to something else.
What I'd add to that, Don, is that, handling the, with all the unlimited, if you got a lot of opportunity coming your way, and main focus on what you want to do is keep it low, like Michael said, and finish it. But just remember, anytime you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So if you're thinking about jumping off into something else, and you're going to lose focus on the thing that that you've already got going as well. So anyway.
All the greats, Bill, like Buffett and all these guys, an example, they say no to almost everything. They're not good at almost anything. Like Buffett's the first guy. He's like, I'm not a very good father. I'm not a very good husband. I don't know anything about crypto. Like he doesn't do any, he missed the tech thing. He didn't understand tech, so he didn't invest in it. But like I do one thing in the consulting business, I do world building. I don't talk about mindfulness. I don't talk about meditation. I don't meditate. I don't talk about things that I don't know about. So I decided to do one thing, which is world building. And there's a few prongs to that, but you'll never catch me talking about something that, I just stick to my knitting. I just stick to that one thing that I'm good at. And I didn't coach volleyball. I didn't coach basketball. I coached hockey, and I coached a specific group. So what do you have a passion for? What's your mission? And do that and say no to absolutely everything else.
Vitamin N.
Vitamin N, brother.
Okay, this is okay, here we go. Anonymous attendee. I'm not sure how this person got in here, Michael. But anyway, can you suggest some ideas for taking time off as an agency owner? That's the question. And then he goes on to say, I'd like to take some extended time off, but I keep thinking that it may be best to take several shorter periods of time off.
Well, earlier in my career, I've talked about this before. I took what were called mini vacations. I had 3 people working, so I couldn't go away for 2 weeks or a week, ran like that. So when Krista and I first started dating, we started doing 3-day weekends, and that's the most that I could do. But I was literally disconnected for that Friday or that Monday, whatever it was. So we started taking little, sometimes we'd go away, Bill, sometimes we wouldn't go away. But those little, one per time per month, I would take a Friday or a Monday off, and we would go away. It was important to go away. And we would change our environment. We'd go to a hotel, we'd go to a camp, we'd go skiing, whatever we did. And those were many, many vacations. I remember when I was in the insurance business the first few years, I didn't take any vacation because my staff were off in the summer and it was all me. But that's how I kept my sanity. I took 3-day weekends, and then it became 4-day weekends. And then after that, you know, when I got up to about 5 or 6 staff, my life changed when I had a personal assistant. But if you're trapped in your business right now, try that 3 days. If you're closed Saturday and Sunday, try that extra day. As you know, Bill, it makes a big difference just getting out of your house, just getting away from your business. And there's nothing that's going to happen on a Friday or Monday that's not repairable. You know, I used to use an answering service. I used to hire an answering service. One time I hired this girl who used to clean my apartment. And I said, can you answer the phones this Friday? We're going to lock the front door of the agency. And she literally sat there for 8 hours on a Friday and answered the phone live. And because it was live, there was no problem whatsoever. If there was a claim, she told them where to call. And because somebody was, Michael will be back on Monday. I literally had my cleaning girl one time answer the phones for 8 hours so that I could go skiing. So little mini vacations.
Wow. Wow. That's fantastic. I've never heard that one either. All the talk.
There's, what do you call them? Concierge, purse people, you know, and I hired her. She had all this experience running her own company in the past. I said, how would you like to run the phones for a day? And she's like, sure, $20 an hour. Fine by me.
Right. All right. Last one. This one's from Edwin Dean Anderson. You mentioned your creator. Do you know who he is?
Well, I'm not what you would call a typical religious person. I went to the United Church my entire life. Some of my best memories as a child was through the church. I learned to sing and speak, and I learned how to present and all these things through the United Church, which was, I actually taught Sunday school for a few months when I was a teenager, which is incredible and hard to believe. I just look at it that there's more. I believe in God. I believe that there's more than this. I believe that I've been gifted a tour of duty on this earth. I don't know how long it's going to be. I believe that there's more than just going through the motions. And I believe that there's something more than just this after. I just have to have faith. I don't know any more than you or anybody else. I just found that over the last 2 years, I've reconnected with myself spiritually. I'm not going to church. I'm not reading the Bible per se. It's not like that. I start each day, as you know, Bill, with 2 minutes. And all I do is I give thanks for everything I have. I don't ask for anything anymore. I have had more than enough blessings in my life and abundance that I never, ever ask my personal creator for anything. I just thank him for more time, for health, for my parents, for my daughter, for my wife, for people like you. And then that's it. And then I say to my creator every day, I go, use me to serve other men in the fashion you see, whether that's writing a book or whether that's on an interview, whatever, use me to serve others. And that's my personal religion right now. I believe in God. I believe there's more. And I believe everybody has a responsibility to maximize what I call your tour of duty on this earth. I know that a lot of guys say, and a lot of gals say, well, building a world, Michael, or building a kingdom, I don't know about that. And I'm like, well, my personal God wants me to be wealthy. My personal God wants me to be a leader. My personal God wants me to take advantage of this abundance. So those people who are given a lot is expected, like my mom and dad always say.
Excellent. Well, I'm not going to try to answer that question because there's no way I could possibly top that, other than to say that, you know, I had I mentioned recovery early in the call, that it took what it took for me to get over the alcohol. But I had to get introduced to a program of recovery. And, you know, when I walked into those doors the first time, I could see that it was plainly stated on the wall what recovery was going to be about, and God was mentioned several times. And I thought, oh my, I'm in trouble here because I haven't, I've kind of left God out of the picture these last 40 years or 30 years, whatever they were. But he didn't leave me. And man, I learned I learned a lot about what was going on and what other people that were doing that program successfully did. And anyway, it's been good. And Dean Anderson, thank you very much for that question. I believe it was a question. Yes, it was. So thank you very much for that. Michael, this has been a pleasure, man.
I've never done an interview like this. Usually the questions are pretty cliche, but I think you and I just had a discussion today as friends.
Yeah, it is. And here's to that friendship lasting even longer. Can't wait till the Naples mastermind gets cranked up to 5-star, man. I'm looking forward to that.
You got Ritz-Carlton written all over you. That's your selling point to your wife, Vanessa. By the way, it's the Ritz-Carlton. She's like, we're in.
Yeah. No more of that camping bear stuff. I'm not interested in going on. That was a great
what we do for young children.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Thanks again, Bill, for letting my list, my followers, my clients, and my friends a part of this. You didn't have to do that, and it was great to have them involved. I know a lot of them took us up on the opportunity to be here this afternoon. So thank you for sharing.
You bet. Thank you, my man. And thank you, Mark LeBlanc, for putting this together. Marc-Andre LeBlanc, the little French tech wizard.
All right. See you guys.
All right. Take care. Thank you, Michael.
Stay relentless, Billy.
You bet, bud. You bet. Thank you.